Farage.
The leader of the UK Reform Party, who, by the way, did really well in that last election. It's easier to like him when he got the kind of votes he got. He really took it by storm, and they say he's going to do even better this time. Nigel Farage. Where is Nigel?
Okay, so President Donald Trump just praised British Prime Minister Keir Starmer's immigration policies as a fantastic thing, creating one of the strangest political alignments in recent transatlantic history. And what this reveals is far more complex and troubling than a simple endorsement. OKs, let's go back to the video.
Donald Trump rally speech. The president is now reportedly readying himself for Farage to sweep into number 10. And get this, it could reportedly happen much sooner than anyone thinks.
Trump, who has spent years attacking European leaders for being weak on immigration, and who specifically labelled London's mayor as terrible for allegedly allowing unchecked migration, is now applauding Starmer for taking a hardline stance on channel crossings. And this isn't just about two leaders finding common ground. This is about how Trump's immigration ideology is reshaping global politics, forcing centre-left governments to adopt increasingly restrictive policies to avoid being characterised as soft on borders, and about what happens when the political centre of gravity on migration shifts so far right that even Labour governments in Britain sound like they're reading from Trump's playbook. Now, let's be honest for a moment. Mainstream coverage often focuses on headlines but skips the context, incentives, and power dynamics behind the scenes. That's why this channel exists, to break down what actually matters, based on public reporting, institutional rules, and how power really works. If you want to stay ahead of these stories, make sure you're subscribed. We bring context, not spin. All right, let's get back to what just happened. Here's what actually happened. During a meeting in Scotland in July 2025 at Trump Turnberry Golf Club, President Trump commended Prime Minister Starmer's immigration policies, specifically praising his government's efforts to deter migrants crossing the English Channel in small boats. Trump stated, "You're doing not a good thing. You're doing a fantastic thing. I hear that you've taken a very strong stand on immigration, and taking a strong stand on immigration is imperative." Starmer had earlier reported that his government had removed 35,000 people and was implementing tough measures to stop channel crossings. The context for Trump's praise is a new agreement that Starmer announced at a press conference in London with French President Emmanuel Macron. The deal, described as a one-in, one-out pilot scheme, would allow the UK to detain and send back migrants who arrived on its shores in small boats from France. In return, Starmer agreed to accept the same number of migrants from France who have not tried to enter the UK illegally and who are deemed to have legitimate asylum claims. This arrangement represents a significant hardening of Labour's position on immigration, reflecting intense political pressure on Starmer to deliver on campaign promises of controlling channel crossings. Trump elaborated on his views during the Scotland meeting, stating, "You cannot let people come in here illegally, and what happens is there'll be murderers, there'll be drug dealers, there'll be all sorts of things that other countries don't want, and they send them to you, and they send them to us, and you've got to stop them." He added, "Last month we had 0 people come into the country, 0 other than coming through legal means," referring to his own administration's immigration enforcement, which has resulted in what he claims is a 90% collapse in illegal border crossings. Now, here's where this gets bigger than it looks. Trump's praise for Starmer comes against a backdrop of years of Trump attacking European leaders, and particularly UK leaders, for being weak on immigration. Trump has repeatedly called Europe weak and decaying due to migration. In a December 2025 interview with Politico, Trump stated, "Europe, they want to be politically correct, and it makes them weak." He argued that European nations should deport people who came into the country illegally, and warned, "Europe is a different place. If that keeps going the way it's going, in my opinion, many of those countries will not be viable countries any longer." Trump has specifically and repeatedly attacked London Mayor Sadiq Khan, calling him horrible, incompetent, vicious, and disgusting. In the same Politico interview, Trump questioned Khan's ideology and suggested that the mayor, a Muslim, was elected by immigrants, echoing the Great Replacement conspiracy theory. Trump claimed that the UK is allowing people just to come in, unchecked, unvetted, despite the fact that Britain has been adopting increasingly restrictive immigration laws. So, let's break down what this really means. Trump's endorsement of Starmer represents a political validation that puts Starmer in an extremely difficult position with his own political base. The Labour Party has historically positioned itself as more compassionate on immigration and asylum than the Conservative Party. Starmer's centre-left government includes members who have been deeply critical of Trump's immigration policies. Yet here is Starmer being praised by Trump for adopting policies that critics describe as open borders by stealth, being replaced by what Trump considers proper border control. This is not just about one person. This is about how Trump's hardline immigration rhetoric has fundamentally shifted the global political conversation on migration. When Trump took office in January 2025 for his second term, he immediately reinstated the Remain in Mexico policy, revived rapid expulsions, expanded safe third country deals, tripled ICE removal flights, and shut down catch and release. According to reporting, illegal crossings on America's southern border collapsed by more than 90% in the first 100 days. Trump has also pledged to permanently pause migration from what he calls third world countries, and has called for reverse migration, or remigration. These policies have created what some analysts describe as a demonstration effect. Right-wing commentators and politicians in the UK, particularly figures like Nigel Farage, point to Trump's approach as proof that aggressive border enforcement works. They argue that Britain should adopt similar measures, ending pull factors like hotel accommodation and cash benefits for asylum seekers, making clear that illegal entry leads nowhere except removal flights, striking firm returns agreements, and pushing boats back to French shores. And this is where the stakes become very real for Starmer. He faces intense political pressure from multiple directions. From the right, Farage and Conservative critics accuse him of presiding over open borders by stealth and managed decline, pointing out that legal migration remains historically high and small boat crossings continue. From the left, human rights advocates and progressive Labour members are horrified by the hardening of asylum policies and the acceptance of Trump-style rhetoric. And from Trump, Starmer now receives public praise that associates his government with policies that many Labour supporters find abhorrent. The political calculus for Starmer is brutal. If he rejects Trump's praise and distances himself from hardline immigration policies, he risks being painted as soft on borders and losing voters to Reform UK and the Conservatives. If he embraces Trump's endorsement and continues toughening immigration enforcement, he alienates his progressive base and validates Trump's approach. There is no good option. Now here's the part no one is talking about. Trump's immigration policies are creating a talent reallocation that could actually benefit the UK economically, even as they create political headaches for Starmer. With Trump's hardline rhetoric around immigration, especially cutting skilled and work-based migration, coupled with his commitment to create American jobs for American workers, international migrants are finding the doors to the US increasingly closed. According to the Migration Policy Institute, the US has traditionally been the top international destination for migrant workers. But with Trump restricting access, that talent pool is looking elsewhere. This creates opportunities for UK businesses, especially in sectors with talent deficits. According to jobseeker.com, online searches relating to UK immigration from US nationals rose by 900% between November 4th and November 6th, 2024, immediately following Trump's election victory. Young, college-educated American workers who are disenchanted with Trump's policies are considering relocating abroad. If Trump follows through on ending double taxation for Americans overseas, it could further incentivize US talent to consider working in the UK. So there's a paradox at the heart of this situation. Trump's hardline immigration policies in the US may push skilled workers toward the UK, benefiting British businesses and the British economy. But Trump's ideological influence on global immigration discourse is simultaneously pushing UK politicians like Starmer to adopt more restrictive policies that could undermine Britain's ability to attract and retain the talent it needs. Former UK Border Force Director General Tony Smith told GB News that Trump's approach of permanently pausing migration from certain nations is technically doable in Britain. The UK has a system where everyone other than British or Irish passport holders needs permission to enter. The government could withdraw those permissions through implementation of the visa system, effectively banning certain cohorts or countries. Smith acknowledged this would generate outcry from critics who would call it outrageous and disproportionate, but he confirmed it's legally possible. This changes the balance of power in how immigration policy is debated in the UK. Trump's success in reducing border crossings through enforcement provides ammunition for those arguing that compassionate asylum policies are naive and ineffective. The fact that Starmer is now being praised by Trump for tough border measures validates the right-wing argument that Labour has abandoned its principles and is simply implementing what Conservatives have advocated for years. But here's the institutional challenge. The UK operates under different legal and constitutional constraints than the US. Britain is a signatory to the European Convention on Human Rights and the Refugee Convention. These international obligations limit the government's ability to implement certain policies, such as blanket bans on asylum seekers from specific countries or pushbacks at sea that could endanger lives. Clauses in these conventions have repeatedly prevented the Home Office from deporting foreign criminals, leading critics to call for UK withdrawal from these agreements. Trump operates in a system where he can unilaterally declare policy changes through executive orders, knowing that legal challenges will take months or years to work through courts, and by then, the political damage or benefit has already been realized. Starmer operates in a parliamentary system with stronger judicial review and international legal obligations that constrain executive action. So even if Starmer wanted to fully adopt Trump's playbook, he couldn't do so without either withdrawing from international treaties or facing constant legal defeats. So here's the bottom line. President Trump praised Prime Minister Starmer's tough immigration policies as fantastic, specifically endorsing Starmer's efforts to stop channel crossings and remove migrants. What changed is that a centre-left Labour Prime Minister received public validation from Trump for adopting hardline immigration measures, creating a political alignment that puts Starmer in a difficult position with his progressive base while emboldening critics who argue he's not going far enough. What's still uncertain is whether Starmer can maintain this balance between tough enforcement that satisfies voters concerned about immigration and humanitarian policies that satisfy Labour's progressive wing and comply with international law. It's also uncertain whether Trump's approach of dramatically reducing migration will prove sustainable or whether economic pressures from businesses needing workers will force policy adjustments. What could happen is that Starmer continues hardening immigration policies to avoid being attacked as weak, gradually adopting more of Trump's rhetoric and approach, while facing increasing rebellion from Labour MPs and civil society organisations. Alternatively, if Trump's policies prove economically damaging to the US through labour shortages and business complaints, it could provide political cover for Starmer to resist further rightward drift on immigration. Why this matters institutionally is that it demonstrates how Trump's influence extends far beyond US borders. His immigration policies and rhetoric are reshaping the global debate, forcing centre-left leaders to adopt positions that would have been considered far-right just a decade ago. The political centre of gravity on immigration has shifted so dramatically that a Labour Prime Minister receiving praise from Trump for border enforcement is now unremarkable rather than scandalous. This story is far from over. Keep your eyes on channel crossing numbers, on Labour backbench rebellions over asylum policy, and on whether the economic benefits of attracting displaced talent from the US materialise, or whether Britain follows America down the path of immigration restriction. Claude é uma IA e pode cometer erros. Por favor, verifique as fontes citadas.